Number 3. Randy Petersilge. Simon Clark was the father of 2 sons. The 41-year-old had moved from England to Florida to work in property rentals. On November 28, 2001, Newport Richey police found Clark's body in a Pasco County, Florida home. It appeared someone had beaten him to death. The medical examiner determined the cause of death was multiple blunt force trauma to his head and chest. Medical examiners ruled the death as a homicide. The police had less than cooperative witnesses to the crime, but one of them led the police to the murder weapon, a baseball bat. Despite this, the police could not obtain enough evidence to make an arrest. They did, however, have one person of interest in the crime, Randy Petersilge. The state attorney's office refused to proceed with the charges. The witnesses involved had prior criminal history, and the case lacked physical evidence. Forensic expert tested the baseball bat and Clark's pants for fingerprints, but found none. The case went cold in 2004. Over the next 15 years, Petersilge continued to build his criminal record. His arrests include grand theft, burglary, and aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer. In 2015, he was convicted in federal court of possessing a firearm as a felon. He was sentenced to 42 months in prison. Meanwhile, the police reopened the case of Simon Clark in 2016. This time, the police talked to a witness who had, quote, been living with the memories of the incident since its occurrence, unquote. His name was Jason Acevedo, who witnessed Petersilge beat Clark with a bat. He was one of the less than cooperative witnesses who was interviewed in 2001, but when he was interviewed in 2016, he gave more information. Acevedo, who was 21 years old at the time of the murder, told the police he didn't say much during the initial investigation because Petersilge told him he couldn't testify against him since he had also hit Clark with a bat. Acevedo's story was corroborated by Denise Sanders, the general contractor hired for construction on the home of Simon Clark's friend and business partner, David Pollard, in 2001. Sanders was Petersilge's girlfriend at the time. According to a witness report, Sanders told the police that Petersilge rarely worked and relied on her for money to buy drugs. She admitted that he was violent and beat her many times. According to Sanders, Petersilge confessed to the murder. At the time of the murder, Pollard, who was in England at the time, was having construction done on his Florida home. Sanders had billed Pollard for more than $300,000 with little work completed. Clark, working on behalf of Pollard, had been monitoring progress. He talked to subcontractors and found discrepancy in the work completed compared to what was billed. Pollard hired a civil engineer who determined that only $120,000 worth of work had been completed. When Clark met with Sanders at Pollard's home on November 28, 2001, he told her she wasn't receiving additional funding. Petersilge, who was waiting outside, became furious. He grabbed a bat, marched into the house, and asked Sanders where Clark was. Sanders told Petersilge's location in the house and then left. Petersilge found Clark and beat him with the bat. Investigators concluded that Sanders was defrauding Clark and Pollard to purchase narcotics. Clark's refusal to pay Sanders was Petersilge's motive for killing him. Petersilge and Acevedo had previous drug charges, and Petersilge also had previous charges for attacking a person with a baseball bat. Armed with new witness accounts, police were able to arrest Petersilge. In April 2019, the police arrested 51-year-old Randy Petersilge as he was walking out of prison. 18 years after the murder of Simon Clark, he was charged with first-degree murder. Petersilge's mugshot stood out because his face was completely covered with tattoos. Petersilge pleaded not guilty during his November 2022 trial. After weeks of trial, a jury found him guilty of Simon Clark's death. He was sentenced to life in prison. At the time of this video, 55-year-old Randy Petersilge is serving a sentence at the Northwest Florida Reception Center in Chipley, Florida. Number 2. Raymond Frolander. On July 18, 2014, 35-year-old father Jason Browning heard odd noises coming from his son's room in their Daytona Beach, Florida home. Around 1 a.m., Browning had just returned from picking up food. When the father entered his son's room, he noticed 18-year-old Raymond Frolander's genitals exposed, and he was performing a sex act on his 11-year-old son. Frolander had been playing video games with a group of kids at the boy's house. After the other kids left, Frolander took the youngster into the back room. When Browning caught Frolander in the act, he beat him unconscious. After the beating, Browning went to the kitchen to grab a knife, fully intending to kill Frolander. He relented when his son pleaded with him to stop. The father pulled his son's attacker into the living room and called 911. The father told the dispatcher, "I just walked in and found a grown man molesting my child. I got him in a bloody puddle for you right now. He is nice and knocked out for you." The dispatcher asked if any weapons were used. "My foot and fist," Browning responded. Browning then went on to say, "You are damn lucky, boy, that I love my God." Frolander was still unconscious when the police apprehended him. He had multiple welts, a swollen lip, a black eye, and multiple cuts and bruises. He was taken to a medical facility for his injuries. Frolander's beaten face appeared in the mugshot police took when he was booked. The mugshot was released to the public and shared thousands of times on social media. The public opinion felt that the father was right by beating his son's attacker. His father didn't regret the beating, yet he didn't brag about it. He felt his son saved Frolander's life as he was about to kill him. The police did not charge Browning with any crimes related to the beating. The police chief said, "Dad was acting like a dad. I don't see anything we should charge the dad with. You have an 18-year-old who has clearly picked his target, groomed his target, and had sex with the victim multiple times." When the police questioned the 11-year-old, he told them that Frolander had been molesting him for 3 years. Frolander allegedly admitted to this. Frolander also told the police he had been abused as a child. The 18-year-old had spent a lot of time at the Browning house, almost like any other family member. It was not uncommon for the two to be alone playing video games. Despite his admission to the police, Frolander pleaded not guilty to sexual battery of a child under 12 during his August 7th arraignment. Browning told the press that Frolander's actions had torn his family apart. He said, "My daughters don't even know how to hug or kiss their brother anymore." Browning created a GoFundMe page for his son's counseling and hospital bills. The original goal was $1 million. The goal caused public outrage, and many people claimed that Browning was trying to benefit from his son's misfortune. Browning lowered the goal to $100,000 and renamed the page "Restore My Son's Innocence." The page was eventually taken down. Meanwhile, a Facebook page, "Raymond Frolander is Innocent," popped up. The origin of the page were unknown, but it mocked Browning's attempts for donations. The page also claimed that the Dane Police Department was corrupt. However, the page had little impact and the evidence was flimsy. The trial was set for November 2014, and the young victim would have to testify, something the family wanted to avoid. But with a mandatory life sentence looming, Frolander decided to take a plea bargain. On August 2, 2015, Frolander showed little emotion as the judge sentenced him to 25 years in prison for lewd and lascivious molestation of a victim younger than 12. The sentence also meant that Frolander would be listed on the sex offender registry for the rest of his life. He would also be electronically monitored. The victim's grandmother was relieved there was no trial and her grandson would not have to testify. She also said he just needs to learn to trust again. The grandmother also said their grandson was doing great. He was homeschooled for the 6th grade and received counseling. The grandmother also expressed remorse for Frolander. She wishes that he got the help he needed before this happened. She said, "I feel bad for him. I wish someone would have gotten him help at some point, but this happened, and now the streets are free of a pedophile." Jason Browning also commented on Frolander's sentence. He's going to learn in the next 25 years why I let him live. Raymond Frolander is currently incarcerated at the Okaloosa Correctional Institution in Crestview, Florida. His earliest possible release date is November 2037, when he'll be 41 years old. Number 1. Roberto Carlos Silva Jr. Roberto Silva Jr.'s downward spiral started with a fast food app. On November 18, 2020, police stopped the 23-year-old man as he was leaving a Sonic's restaurant in the Bellevue suburb of Omaha, Nebraska. Silva allegedly used the Sonic app 4 times that day to order $57 worth of hamburgers and corn dogs on someone else's account. The 41-year-old man brought the theft to the restaurant's attention and they called the police. The police stopped Silva and they searched his car. They found 3 firearms. Silva was arrested for identity theft but released the next day after paying 10% of the $1,500 bail. 3 days later, the police responded to a call at a Sonic's restaurant just before 9:30 p.m. Dispatchers initially said that the incident was a bomb in a moving truck, but they updated it to a shooting a minute later. 23-year-old Roberto Silva had thrown incendiary devices into the restaurant and opened fire with a gun. He had also set fire to a U-Haul truck in the parking lot. The police arrived on scene at 9:26 p.m. and arrested Silva without incident. The police publicly released body cam footage that shows several officers approaching Silva while he's lying face down and unarmed. A SWAT team, 20 police officers, and 6 ambulances also descended on the area. Omaha Police Department's bomb squad blocked off traffic from the area after the arrest. They remained on the scene to clear the area in case of additional devices. 4 employees were shot during the melee. 3 other employees managed to flee the scene. The victims, 28-year-old Ryan Halbert and 22-year-old Nathan Pastrana, died at the scene. The other 2 victims, 25-year-old Kenneth Gerner and 18-year-old Zoe Reese Adelaide Lujan, were rushed to the hospital for their injuries. They both survived. Silva was booked on 2 counts of first-degree murder and arson in the early morning hours of November 22nd. The Bellevue Police Department posted a Twitter press release for Silva's crimes. Silva's mugshot caught the attention of many users. Twitter users were outraged that Silva smiled during his mugshots. This was a sinister move for a man accused of murdering 2 people and injuring 2 others. Some media outlets dubbed him the smiling shooter. The Sonic restaurant where the shooting occurred reopened in February 2021. 80% of the staff returned to work. The restaurant set up permanent memorials for the victims of the shooting. An open fireplace with plaques of the victims' names were unveiled in April 2021. The family members of Nathan Pastrana, one of the men killed, drove up from Texas for the unveiling. While detained in October 2021, Silva was charged with felony criminal attempted escape and misdemeanor assault for allegedly throwing a cup with his own feces and urine at corrections officers. Silva also got into more trouble in prison, waiting for his sentence. On May 12th, he was charged with second-degree assault and using a weapon to commit a felony. Officers found Silva standing over a bloodied fellow inmate, Derek Fuller. Security footage shows Silva running to Fuller's cell and staying there for 3 minutes. Inmates told investigators they heard screaming in the cell, like someone being choked. Fuller had serious cuts to his ears and neck and superficial cuts to his body. He was treated at a hospital for a long cut to his neck. Silva was then transferred to a different jail. In January 2022, Sarpy County Attorney's Office decided to seek the death penalty for Silva. However, facing the possibility of death, Silva pleaded guilty to all 15 counts against him in March 2022. Despite Silva pleading guilty, prosecutors still wanted the death penalty, making it the first time in 22 years that the office filed for the death penalty. The county attorney's office claimed that Silva walked into the restaurant prepared to kill people. They released their 5-point notice of aggravators on February 11th. The points included, number 1, the murders were committed in an effort to conceal the commission of a crime or to conceal the identity of the perpetrator of such crime. Number 2, the murders were especially heinous, atrocious, cruel, or manifested exceptionally depravity by ordinary standards of morality and intelligence. Number 3, at the time the murders were committed, the offender also committed another murder. Number 4, the offender knowingly created a great risk of death to at least several persons. And number 5, the murders were committed knowingly to disrupt or hinder the lawful exercise of any governmental function or enforcement of the laws. On March 30th, 2022, the Nebraska Supreme Court appointed a 3-judge panel for the death penalty phase. The panel must unanimously agree on the death penalty, even if one judge dissents, Silva could receive a non-automatic life sentence. The court documents state that the judges were selected at random. In April 2022, Silva's defense team said that his mental health was deteriorating while in solitary confinement. The defense worried he wasn't fit to defend himself during the sentencing phase. A Sarpy district judge ordered that Silva's competency be evaluated at the Lincoln Regional Center. At the time of this recording, Roberto Carlos Silva Jr. is still in prison, waiting to hear a decision on whether he'll receive life in prison or the death penalty. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Please don't forget to check out our new channel, Paranormally Listed. There's a link on the screen now, and there's a link in the description box below this video. Well, that's all for today. Thanks again for watching.